Mr. Michael J. Vance, how you doing today, sir?
I am thankful to be here with you today. More importantly, how are you doing today?
Michael, I'm doing great. More importance, I don't know if we're going to wait sort of things like that today, but we'll see how it goes. But I appreciate you being here. Michael, before we jump into anything too serious, I got to know this first. What's one thing that you think more people should do or use? Something that you like, that you think you figured out, that you think, man, I think more people should be using this thing or doing this thing.
Yeah, I think, wow, for me and my family, I think more people ought to turn off their computers and get out in nature, do some camping. I think it'll do a world of good for them. That's just something my wife and I do or family do on a consistent basis. We find it very refreshing. It's just give us more energies to get back into the mainstream of things. But I think people ought to just unplug and get out in nature. Yeah.
Michael, I may or may not have just returned from a weekend away in the woods, so who knows? We'll have to see. But for me, I have to say it's very simple. I think people should use forks more often. I feel like people eat too much with their hands, and especially in a post-pandemic world, there are more, less adventurous things that could be said. So I think next time you think to eat, just maybe could I use a fork, and don't worry about being socially judged for it. I mean, French fries are okay. Just go ahead and poke it. I want to move this over to insurance, Michael. I feel like I'm very interested in your answer to this question, and I feel like you are, I don't want to say particular, but you know what you like and you know what works for you and your agency. So, what is that thing that you do that you think that again, in the insurance world, that you feel is important, that runs your agency, and that you think more agents should maybe take a minute to stop and consider?
So when I think about our agency and our team, I think that that are in the industry ought to want to be there. I enjoy working in the insurance industry and building relationships. And I mentioned that I've got some relationships with RPS that have gone over 20 plus years. And without those meaningful relationships with people that want to be in the industry, it seems that's the key thing that's missing. People come in and out, but when you want to be here and you talk to the insurance professionals that want to be there, you notice there's a different type of conversation there. We also want to say that, for as the insurance industry is concerned, this is one of the great places to be right now. Is in the insurance industry. I think it's a great industry to be in.
You mentioned those relationships, and that's something that we all sort of hear in the industry. Like, was there a point in time where maybe coming into the business where you heard that, and then was there a moment where it clicked for you that, like, oh yes, this is really relationship based, and what sort of circumstances were surrounding that?
I would say the way that I got into the independent agency system was unique. I had started with a company called Metropolitan Life, and I was working with them in their personal risk management division, helping high net individuals protect their assets, and had been working here in Huntsville, Alabama for a couple of years, and was told about a company called Hundley Batts Associates. That's where I am now. Didn't know anything about them then. They said, "Have you met Mr. Batts?" And kept hearing that. I was working with a lot of you professionals here in the community, entrepreneurs, and they kept saying, "Have you met Mr. Batts?" And so I took it upon myself to go introduce myself to him. And as we were conversating, he began to tell me what it's like to be in the South, to have an agency and to run it. And as he was talking about his goals and his aspirations, something, Joey, resonated with me. I said, I want to get on board. I see where you're going. I want to be a part of this. From that relationship there with Mr. Batts, that really clicked for me. I said, this is something I think I could do for the next 30, 40 years is impact our community. So, yes.
Yeah, and I've heard a lot of those situations where sort of you have that moment where you're talking to somebody and the light bulb sort of comes on. There's something that stood out to you as maybe I can do this a little bit differently. Was there a way that you wanted to approach insurance that felt maybe unique, that was maybe a missed opportunity?
Good question. I remember initially starting with the agency and the first couple of weeks being there. I remember coming into the office and saying to Mr. Bass, Mr. Bass, I can't find anyone to sell to. And he said to me, that's your problem, son. You're trying to sell people. He said, find people you can serve. Those 5 words, find people you can serve, changed my whole paradigm for how I approach business. I'm always trying to find people that needs our service that I can serve the underserved community. So, yes, that would be the aha moment for me in terms of my perspective on how I approach the insurance industry. Instead of selling, finding communities that I can serve.
Well, Michael, I got to ask this then: is how do you define that serving? Like, what characteristics do you need to have in place? Like, what are you looking for then? Once you sort of approach it from that situation, what how do you serve those people and then bring them into the conversation?
So, Joey, I love people. I love helping people. And I had to have a coming home to meeting with Jesus about what I was doing because I was spending time with people that I really couldn't help. I can educate them, I can show them how insurance works, I can show them different things. But I had to have a coming to home meeting with Jesus and realize that my job is to help protect people's assets. If a person didn't own anything and didn't have any assets, at the end of the day, there's really nothing our agency could do for them. So I had to realize that what I do is helping people to have acquire assets, a business, homes, property, anything like that, helping them to protect their assets. So that was that aha moment in terms of how I approach the service that I give to people.
And sort of through that process, did you find any areas like specifically that you liked to focus on, like conversations you like to have, businesses you like to talk to? Did something stand out, or was there a while where you just sort of kind of took whatever kind of came across your plate?
Because the insurance industry is so unique and vast, I kind of stumbled upon this. There's certain industries I like to work in. I love music. I'm a musician part time. I've been playing for local churches in this community for years and years and years. And because of that, I'm in churches, I'm in 50 churches probably a year. So because I'm naturally in that market, I tend to enjoy working in that particular market because I'm already there. And so that's one of the markets that I've learned to work in that is very comfortable for me to work in. It's a market where, and I'll tell you a quick story. I remember writing a small church, maybe 100 less members. I remember after writing at church, the pastor asked me if I can help his son-in-law with insurance. And so I went out and worked with the son, wrote his home and auto. And then from this pastor in this church, I ended up giving several members personal service. So even though I wrote the one church, I ended up having 15, 20 policies with that one relationship. And so I found that when you're there on a consistent basis, they see you develop these relationships, they ask you what you do. So for me, when you work in areas that you have a natural proclivity to, you're going to be a little bit more successful because they'll see you, that you're authentic in what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean that's interesting, right? Because that's another thing that we hear, quite a bit, and that's one of the things I think draws a lot of people into insurance, or I guess maybe doesn't necessarily draw them, but once they get here, they realize that they can find a connection point to another passion. Would you have any advice to somebody who is maybe looking to connect insurance with a passion, and maybe it's not going as well as they think it should?
For me, I would tell a person, and we have in our agency, we have what three core values. And one of our core values is continuous optimization, meaning that you have to constantly be willing to grow in the insurance industry. And if you're one of those persons that want to settle, then I would probably tell you this is not the industry to be in because you're going to be asked, I don't care if you've been in the business 3 years, 30 years, to continue to grow. And I think that's one of the reasons you've seen in the last, I guess, 2 or 3 years, a migration, baby boomers like myself, not wanting to learn something new, this technology. I've got to learn technology and insurance now. I've got to, I don't want to do that. So I would say that if you're not willing to grow and if you're not one of those person that want to excel consistently throughout your career, you're probably not going to enjoy your experience in the insurance industry. As you can say, you're doing a podcast here. I mean, if you thought when you first started in insurance, you would be doing a podcast now. Why do I need to do that? So there's certain skill sets. You got to adjust. You got to be flexible. You got to see opportunities. So if there's someone that's not getting all they want out of their their current position, I would tell them to look inside and see if it's something that they maybe need to reconsider in terms of their wanting to grow and excel.
Michael, then I have to know then, is there any other passions that you're trying to sort of work your way into the insurance angle? Like where are you growing to? Like what's sort of on your horizon as far as something that has captured your imagination?
Wow. I'm in a community right now, Huntsville, Alabama, that has really inspired me and our agency. The potential that's happening right now here in Huntsville is absolutely unbelievable. When I first relocated here in '88, I knew it was a great community to raise a family in, but the amount of resources and economic development that's happening here in Huntsville right now is mind boggling. Give you an example. Within the last 18 months, Facebook has invested $750 million here in Huntsville in a data center. Jeff Bezos has started a company here called Blue Origin. They're here
Hmm.
in Huntsville right now, today. Within the last 24, 18 months, Huntsville has opened the only technology and cyber school in America right now for high school kids that actually come into the community. They live on campus, and these high school kids are learning about technology and the future and where it's going. These high school kids are going to have opportunities to earn $30,000, $40,000 a year in high school. This is amazing. I mean, that's happening here right now in Huntsville. Huntsville has the second largest research park in America, soon to be the first. And so there's a lot that's going on that's inspiring me. And the movement having the Space and Rocket Center camp here is in Huntsville as well. So there's a lot of things that's happening in technology that's inspiring me and our agency to continue to grow our agency and the opportunities that's presenting itself here in the agencies now. The FBI recently relocated their cybersecurity department here to Huntsville. 4,000 jobs are coming here with that. And so there's just so many opportunities in the technology and cyber field that's given me hope as far as the agency because technology, binding technology and insurance, there's so many opportunities out there for us. So yeah, good question.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. I think maybe one of the realities that is a little harder to face in a lot of terms is that we say the internet has made the world smaller, but still, a lot of insurance is done within a pretty tight, circumference from where the agency exists, right? It's still like the community-based thing, and if you're not all that excited about your community or you don't see a lot of opportunity, it becomes very challenging. So, would you say to somebody, this is a bit of a reach, but feel free to give me what you got, Michael? Would you say to not be afraid to sort of expand what you defined as potential? Like maybe you might need to go one or two towns over. Maybe you need to start considering more drastic moves for your agency. Is that something that you think would be on the table if you weren't in a position of sort of this growth as you sort of mentioned?
I get an opportunity to speak at local colleges and universities, just encouraging young people to go into the insurance industry. And one of the things I tell them is follow the opportunities. The opportunity for you might not be in this community, but go to where it is. And you might be able to circle back later on back to your community, but follow the opportunities. And the opportunities might not be right there where you are. So, where are those opportunities? Is it in the next city? Is it in the next community? Is it online? Where is the opportunity for you? And then follow that opportunity.
This is an unfair question, but I want to ask it anyways, Michael. If there's one thing that has made you successful in the agency space, what's the thing that sort of got you to where you are today? If you had to sort of move everything else away and say this is the one thing, it might not even be the most obvious, it might even be the most overlooked, but is there one thing that sort of stands out to you as getting you where you are right now?
In the insurance industry, as I mentioned earlier, it's built on relationships. I've been able to build some meaningful relationships in the insurance agency that has enhanced my career. I am the first African American to be the president of the Alabama Independent Agent Association. I am the first African American and agent to do an online conference for the Alabama Independent Agent Association. And so people have found Michael Vance to be a friend, an ally. And so the relationships that I've built over years have gotten me to the place that I'm am right now today. I would say that one of the things that I value is loyalty. My wife and I will be celebrating, well, we celebrate 39 years of marriage. And you don't have long term relationships. I've learned so much from being married that I've been able to take over into the business arena. People are looking, they're longing for loyalty today. Employers want people that are going to come to work and plan on being there for a minute. Companies, they promote people that they know are going to be around for a while. So the one thing I would tell a young person in their career, especially at the initial part of it, be loyal to that company. Stay there for a minute. 3 years is really not a long time. 5 years is not a long time. Give yourself 100%, go in there and be loyal to where you are. I think that will bring a lot of growth on your own part. You'll see that the longer you stay in places, the more people get to know you, the more they can trust you. Long-term relationships are built on trust. And how do you build trust? It takes time. It's not done one quarter after the next quarter. It's done over, it takes years to do that. So I would say the one thing that have helped me in my career has been loyalty, sticking to it until you get good at it and people notice you. Yeah.
Hi, Michael. I've got three more questions for you, sir. The first one is very simply, what is one thing you hope you never forget?
I celebrated our family reunion every first week in August, every other year. And my family is originally from Arkansas. They were farmers prior to that, sharecroppers prior to that, being enslaved. And so my great great grandfather, he had one of his fingers cut off because he wanted to learn to read. One of the things I tell my kids and my grandkids is that the very fact that 150 years ago, here in America, you were not allowed to read, it was illegal. So you need to take advantage of the opportunity to educate yourself and never stop learning. Always be willing to grow. And so I always remember that my ancestors sacrificed a lot for me to be where I am today. I'll never forget that as enslaved people.
Hi, Michael. Now, on the other side of that, what's one thing you still have yet to learn?
Gosh, the world's a university. I'm still married to the same one. I'm learning about her every day, Ardella, my wife. There's so much in the insurance industry you have to learn. If you just open your eyes and realize that you don't know everything. So I'm right now with the technology that's happening this year. I was, I guess, appointed to serve on the national committee for technology for the Independent Agents Association nationwide. Independent agent and brokers, and that is going to be something I'm going to have to learn to spend more time in that particular area. So for me, there's so many areas in technology that are expanding. I'm just willing to. I'm like a sponge right now. So everything around me, I'm just learning. I'm growing.
All right, Michael. Last question to you, sir. If I were to hand you a magic wand of sorts to reshape, change, alter, speed up really any part of insurance, what's that thing? Where is it going? And what's it doing?
I think when I enter rooms or spaces today, and I want to see more people that look like me, more people of color, especially on the management, upper management, and leadership. When I had the opportunity to serve in certain leadership position, I noticed I would walk into rooms and there would be no one there like me. And so I would say if you could change the structure of many of these organizations like the one, the Alabama Independent Agent Association, they started in the early, late 18th century. Back then, the world was different. So they were put in place to keep certain people down so they can keep control of it. So you have to change that whole structure, not the people, the structure itself. You could change the structure of all this many organization that's been in place, these institutions where they put things in places that make it more difficult for people of color, for women to advance. If you change those structures, if I had a magic wand, that's what I would do and make it an even playing field for all people.